I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today we're fastening our caps, strapping on our overalls, and putting on our best badges as we rank the Special World courses from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This is it, the final frontier, the Special World stages that will test us to our limit and hopefully entertain with a variety of gimmicks spiced up to their peaks. I'm actually writing this introduction before playing any of the levels, so we'll see how I feel once I've braved the gauntlet. This is the final episode in an 8-part video series ranking all the courses in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, so if you're interested in the rest of the game, check the playlist link at the top of the description for all the other worlds and their rankings. And please remember, I'm a casual 2D Mario fan. I'm more into the vibe and the aesthetics and the fun of these games, as opposed to knowing hardcore speedrun strats or tech like that, and that is what's reflected in my rankings. So without further ado, all 10 Special World courses in Super Mario Bros. Wonder ranked. And let me know your favorite Special World course down below. Landing at the bottom of the ranking, we have Pipe Rock Plateau Special, Bounce Bounce Bounce. As I soon found out, every course in the Special World revolves around a previously used Wonder effect, and all of them are improvements on their original versions. That being said, Bounce Bounce Bounce, which features the gigantic hoppos from their World 1 level, is a bit of a misfire. Given it's the first Special World level you can access, it's rather short and to the point. You have to use a pair of hoppos to bounce across platforms and collect 3 flower coins along the way. It's challenging in the sense that the way you bounce on the hoppos can cause them to turn and go in the opposite direction, which is especially frustrating when you need them to go to the right and they want to keep going to the left. But it's a course that's over before it really begins, as by the time the system starts to click with you, you're already at the exit pipe. I had to collect the last flower coin on a rerun because I accidentally hopped off the hoppo too early my first time, but it wasn't much of a hassle. It's a fun little course, but feels a bit half-baked and could have used another 33% gameplay to help it stand out. At number 9, we take a big jump in quality to Sun-Baked Desert Special, Pole Block Allure. Here, they combine the pole blocks introduced in World 2 and the enemies of World 4 to create a fast-paced platforming challenge. It starts off simple enough, hopping over armads and bouncing on a trio of bloomps to reach the Wonder Flower, and then it gets crazy. The pole block Wonder effect returns with various poles stretching across the sky, begging you to climb them. I missed the first flower coin, not expecting one to be riding behind an armad on the lowest level, but grabbing it on a second run was pretty simple, because honestly, this level isn't that difficult. You just have to stay ahead of the auto-scroll and jump up the poles as quick as you can. The danger comes from those purple bloomps that try to bounce you into the void, but I was able to steer away from that danger at pretty much every turn. Good reaction speeds, I guess. I almost wish we had a repeat of the prior pole block Wonder effect, where we had to collect 5 Wonder tokens to summon the Wonder Seed, but have it set up in a more dangerous fashion. Instead, we've got an auto-scroll level which, while good fun, doesn't rise to the heights of the rest of the Special World lineup. A good effort, though. We've officially gotten past the 2 levels I thought were alright, and the rest of the courses are all fantastic, starting with Deep Magma Bog Special Solar Roller. I have a big soft spot for the spike ball transformation effect, as it's just so satisfying getting to roll around, timing your jumps, and knowing there's a set way to do well with the course. Solar Roller really hits that spot by making it so that the course you roll on is made up of switch blocks, and you have to reach the next switch on the course to reset the timer and keep rolling. This makes collecting the 10 flower coins a risky move, as the time taken could drop you into the void. Admittedly, this is undone by the fact that collecting the 10 flower coins keeps them collected after a death, so you can just unalivant yourself to collect all of them, and then do the bare minimum on a future run to win the level. But hey, that's how the game plays. I'm not at fault for using its systems. I really like levels that give you a good chance of success with your reaction speeds, but also testing your memory in case you die, so you know when to jump, when to hold back, stuff like that. The only reason Solar Roller lands this low is because it's ultimately a very simple gimmick, and I think the rest of the Special World stages have a little extra pep in their step, if you know what I'm saying. Finally, at number 7, we have Shining Fall Special Triple Threat Deluge, a course that manages to maximize the potential of the 2D top-down wonder effect, and it makes me so happy. You start off in a brief gameplay segment with 3 Lakitus raining down well-aimed spike balls on the player. It's best to just keep moving here to avoid taking too much damage, as you'll want extra hits for the 2D segment, as once you collect the Wonder Flower, you have to traverse a 2D sequence where there are bouncy obstacles that threaten to knock you off your path, blocks that can only be destroyed by the Lakitu's spiked balls, moving platforms that you can use to shield yourself, and more. It's a challenge of spatial awareness, as you try to manipulate the Lakitus into breaking open your path forwards while not getting overwhelmed by the amount of spiked balls falling down your way. It rewards patience, and while sometimes you can be stuck waiting around for a spiked ball to hit the right spot, there's a level of tension and danger that is palpable and fair. If you have a few power-ups to top up the amount of hits you take, you'll be fine. Most of the Special World courses are a little bite-sized for my liking, but with this course, it gets to the meat of the concept and does everything it can to expand upon it. Brilliant work. At number 6, we have the final test, Wonder Gauntlet, what I assumed would be the final challenge of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and how wrong I was. Here you face a series of wonder effects in gauntlet fashion, from slinky pipes, fast forwarding and slowing down your game speed, an attack from the Nauseas, gigantic hoppy cats, the darkness of the Sproings, a trip on the Bowser boat, and then a tilted chase sequence as the rifts hunt you down, while using roller derby Koopa grind rails to get that last flower coin, the one I missed on my first run. It's a fun level with a lot of precise platforming and doesn't feel unforgiving once you know what's coming. In fact, I found that using the elephant power-up here significantly reduces the difficulty. The birds at the start can't harm you due to your trunk, nor can the Sproings in their segment. I just think for a level called the Final Test, it didn't feel as difficult as I would have liked, especially with it being a pretty short experience. I'm used to Mario Super levels being brutal and difficult and hard. We've also seen this Wonder Gauntlet done already in the final Bowser's Castle stage before his boss fight. I don't know, I get what they were going for, and it's a really well-made course, especially that final chase as the rifts slowly eat the world while you grab invincibility stars to stay alive. But I finished a level and just thought, I wanted something harder. Be careful what you wish for. At number 5, we have the Petal Isle Special, Way of the Goomba. When I saw this course, I was elated because I wanted to see the Goomba Wonder effect used again after its usage in the More course, and I wasn't disappointed. Here we get a series of obstacles designed to challenge a humble Goomba. Thwomps, which you need to coax to the ground with specific timings to pass, the first two being extremely tricky initially to get by. Then there's bounce platforms. They're not particularly hard to navigate as you only bounce so high and so far in Goomba form, but I could see some people struggling if they're nervous. My favorite part of the level is actually near the end when we get some bluebirds shooting their rainbow bubbles which you need to bounce off of. Especially tough when one of the flower coins hangs below, so you have to manage those bluebird bubbles without popping too many or you'll fall into the void below like I did. I get why they couldn't make this level any larger, you can't use checkpoints during a wonder effect, and the Goomba is slow enough that if the level went on too long, you'd risk alienating players who lost right near the end having to repeat the entire thing. So what we got was really nice. I especially like this little boulder segment where you have to outrun a boulder to a bounce pad, and the jump to the flagpole has you bounce off of a Goomba to reach the tip. How quaint. Just missing out on my top 3, we have the Fungi Mine Special Dangerous Donut Ride. And the best way I can describe this course is if a Mega Man spike drop managed to make its way into Mario somehow, because that's exactly what it is. You drop down donut platforms, avoiding spikes, collecting coins, and hopping your way to safe ground once you can. You have to avoid enemies that hug the sides of the lifts as you go, and I love how fluid the platforming feels with some really well-timed jumps to pull off, and taking a premise I'm quite familiar with and Mario-fying it. I normally dislike excessive spikes, but it fully works here and fits with the Fungi Mine's ruin aesthetic. The Wonder Flower effect happens midway through the level and is surprisingly interesting. Here you'll enter a skydiving freefall mode, a wonder effect from World 2, where you can speed up or slow down your descent. You have to avoid poison orbs, enemies, and eventually the very sides of the room as poison emerges from either side of the screen to trap you. It's a tough sequence that asks you to keep track of multiple factors to survive, and it did get me right near the end of my first attempt. I was just 2 obstacles away from the Wonder Seed, damn it. The second time around was much more successful as I was playing it safe since I couldn't take any damage from the enemies this time around. Though I've got to admit, I wish the level focused more on the concepts introduced in the first half. I really liked the lowering donut lifts and wanted a little more of that perilous platforming over the skydiving wonder effect, but this is just me being a bit nitpicky now. Viewer, you found me, I'm yours. And now that I've got your attention with a niche reference, I'm trying to reach 20,000 subscribers by summer of 2024, and you, yes you, can help. Look at how many of you aren't subscribed to the channel, so be sure to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my latest rankings. Back to the video. At number 3, taking our bronze medal, we have Fluff Puff Peak Special Climb to the Beat. Normally, a pure platforming level with nothing else of merit wouldn't really be a big focus for me on a list like this. After all, I'm a fan of variety. But I recall the Jump 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 course from World 2 and wished we could get a little more of that. So here we are. Climb to the Beat is an absolutely brutal gauntlet of timed jumps that will have you mastering how to wall jump if your life depends on it. And if you're like me and you keep trying to do the wall jump too quickly, resulting in Luigi falling into the poison, well, that's life. I can't even imagine collecting all 3 flower coins in this stage without dying. It just feels impossible for your base kit given the speed at which platforms appear and disappear, but I'm sure you can do it. There's this intricacy to the simplicity of the level that has me wanting to retry it, and not just because of the rainbow-colored platforms. It's addictive and quick, unlike some of the other platforming courses in this game, and is timed, so you have to go at the course's quick pace to succeed. No hesitation, no wariness, no caution. Just you, some jumps, and a prayer. I'm shocked to be ranking it this high, but it just hits that one spot in my brain that really challenges me. But even then, none of the courses so far hold a candle to our top 2. Coming in with the silver, we have the true final course of the game, the final test, Badge Marathon. Here, the wonder effects are discarded, no more gimmicks to play with, and instead the focus is put on the badge system. You'll face 10 different sections, each focused on a different badge, with 2 checkpoints dispersed throughout the level. Beat all 10 and you will be a true champion. Fail and you best start saving up for another 99 lives from the shop. For the most part, I absolutely love the premise of this level, with each section having a set way to do well, and once you understand how to use each badge, you can fly through a segment with relative ease provided you know the speediest strategies. For example, I became an absolute god at the wall climb jump and the boosting spin jump sequences. The way many of the segments will have bulbs that lead the player on the optimal path, teaching you as you go, is fantastic, and led to me really gaining an understanding of some of these badges. The parachute cap, floating high jump, dolphin kick portion of the level was a nice introduction, not too hard nor too easy. Well, the dolphin kick part was pretty simple, but that's just me. My struggles came with 2 particular sections though. As well, I had the crouching high jump, the jet run dash, and the grappling vine segments nailed down, barring the usual, oh no, I'm getting worse at the level the longer I play thing that happens with difficult games. My kryptonite were the spring feet and invisibility segments. I just don't think the spring feet are a well-implemented or interesting badge, and I think the level of challenge dodging those fire bars was beyond anything I was comfortable with. I'd gotten so good at the prior 2 segments only to get clipped by a firebar because I just couldn't get the right momentum or the right cycle. And this was the one time I felt like the talking flowers were actually starting to upset me. It was very patronizing to hear that sometimes you've just gotta jump, or that practicing helps. In every other room they're a godsend of motivation, but here, nah, shut the fuck up. But the worst segment was the invisibility badge, which also happens to be the final segment of the level. I knew it was going to be rough, but the first half with the bounce pads is actually quite easy to line up using the clouds to figure out where Mario is. Then they ask you to bounce on a series of bloops, one of which moves incredibly fast, and this little segment almost broke me, as I couldn't get the correct timing, and there was no way to succeed except brute forcing it, because you're invisible. The only help I received was in the form of a YouTube comment I saw on a damageless run of the course mentioning that Mario is always centered on the screen, which finally gave me the knowledge I needed as I placed my IRL bottle opener against my monitor right at the center of the screen where Mario is often placed, and used that as a guide to bounce to victory. Side note, incredibly fucked up to make the player do an invisible flagpole jump for the hardest level in the game. I really feel for anyone who failed to get that gold flag. I think this stage will be easier on a repeat playthrough, but I don't think anything can prep me for dealing with that invisibility segment again, and I genuinely just don't want to think about it. The last part of the stage, as well as the spring feet, really ruin the momentum of the course for me and take it from a perfect yet brutal stage to a near perfect yet brutal stage. Naturally, my number 1 was always going to be a little more casual and a little more lighthearted, so let's get to it. My favorite course from the special world of Super Mario Wonder goes to the semi-final test, Piranha Plant Reprise. Here, we're treated to another variation of the Piranha Plant Parade Wonder effect, but this time, we're dealing with a series of difficult platforming and 3 very distinct segments to follow. Through each segment, you have to continue hitting question blocks, which will then spawn more question blocks further in the level, and if you hit all of them, they'll spawn a flower coin at the end of each section. It's a simple system, but works extremely well. Having a fire flower can also help with clearing out some of the more crowded screens, but I like that there are ways to avoid every enemy baked into the environment. You might have to wall jump over a giant piranha plant, or maybe you just need to wait for the song to progress for pipes to raise up. The second segment features ramps and spikes throwing balls down at you, while the song's tempo begins to increase, which also speeds up the auto-scroll. It's still a manageable time, and with the joy of the singing in the background, I found myself really getting into the flow and the rhythm of the course. And then the third segment hits, and suddenly you're being dragged forwards by the auto-scroller at high speeds, enemies are running, bullet bills are flying, you're having to carefully jump over large piranha plants, 2 of which are guarding the final flower coin. It's hectic, climactic, but over very quickly if you can avoid the danger. Piranha Plant Reprise really highlights what I think are Mario Wonder's strongest aspects. The sheer creativity and joy that comes from each stage, be it singing piranha plants, getting turned into weird creatures, being thrown into wacky situations. Mario Wonder is a wonder to behold, and for me, it was never about the most difficult levels or the best designed platforming. It's about what puts a smile on my face. So congrats to the semi-final test, because you passed with flying colors at the top of the class. And that's my ranking. I've officially done rankings of every world and every course in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Is there anything left to talk about in this game? Let me know down below, and if this series did well, maybe I'll make a few more videos on the topic. If it didn't do well, then it's been a good run. So parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of my future content. My socials are on screen now, feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I recommend my Twitter, my Blue Sky, or my Discord. They're all viable options for you. A massive shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you for supporting me for another month. You guys are amazing, and I will see you all next time. Adios.